Behind the Shades.
Hello, Irena, how are you doing today?
Hi, Train. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We are going to talk about something that is very close to my heart because, ladies and gentlemen, she's going to help me get married today.
Oh, today. I don't know about today. Next week.
Next week? Okay, what's next week? Hope the weather's still nice because it's raining here in Canada. So I want like a sunny
That's probably the list of your problems. Find the right person.
So we are going to talk about dating, relationships, and how we can be better at it. But you primarily work with men, which is beautiful. So let's officially get started. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, about yourself, and where my audience can find you.
So I am Irina. I am coming originally from Ukraine. I was born and raised in Ukraine. I moved to the United States in 2001, where I lived for 14 years, tried it out, did not find myself feeling like home, went back to Europe, tried it there for about almost 8 years, and I ended up returning here for some unforeseen circumstances with my two kids. And I am a relationship and a dating coach at the moment, and it is something that I had chosen to turn my passion into a business and helping others, because I've seen throughout my own personal journey of healing myself and struggling with forming healthy relationships, I had seen how unequipped most of us are to truly be in a relationship, in a healthy relationship. So I'm just extremely passionate to help people develop the skills needed and the tools needed to find the one, and not just to find the one, but also understand the compatibility concept and sustain the connection in the long term. Because the end goal is not the wedding, the end goal is long-term happiness for all of us. So I have a website. It's lovedandfulfilled.com. Very easily, I think, remembered. Everybody wishes to be loved and fulfilled. And this is essentially my goal, is to get people, men in particular, to get to the place of loved and fulfilled. I do primarily work with men, and there is actually a bit of a unique reason behind. I grew up myself with a very toxic mindset when it comes to my connections with men, and it took me a very long time and a very painful transformation journey to undo what was done to me and instilled into me by my own mom. And I've decided to shift. It's almost like I'm paying back for the pain I unintentionally had caused to men in my life before. And now I feel like I have a lot of love and a lot of compassion, a lot of tools, practical steps now to give them, to help them find the love.
So what are some of the ideals, Irena, that you felt were toxic that you had to maybe resolve within yourself and create new ideals that would be more beneficial to what you're looking for?
My biggest challenge was, I was married. The first time I got married, I was 23. I had a vision of a fairy tale. I had a beautiful dress. I had a lovely wedding. I had a wonderful, wonderful husband, first husband, who I loved dearly. 3 months later, I realized I had no idea how to actually be in a relationship, how to communicate what I need, how to communicate what my concerns are. And then I had in the back of my mind, there always was the voice of my mother, who would say, it's very harsh, but she would reiterate on a regular basis how useless idiots of men they are. And you need to watch out, because they're all useless idiots. This is the word she had used throughout my childhood. This is the way she treated my father. And this is what I've heard. I went into adulthood, unfortunately, internalizing this mindset. And I had attempted to build relationships using this as a belief, which obviously helped me successfully ruin multiple connections with great men. So, and this is probably one of the biggest toxic belief that I had to uproot and get rid of.
What was maybe the origins of your mother teaching that to you and saying that, hey, you need to start viewing men this way. And she was repeating it and instilling it in you.
Oh, I wouldn't even call it a teaching. It was essentially her own pain, talking from the heart, from her own heart. She went through childhood where she was abused repeatedly on a daily basis by her own father, severely abused, physically, emotionally. And this is what she carried into her life. She made a choice not to ever heal, and that's her choice. However, it's only later I realized what she was telling me. It was her unhealthy way of trying to protect me from men because she got hurt by men. She did not know any better. And I had to make a choice. I have a daughter and I have a son. I have 2 kids. I had to make a choice to ensure that they do not continue carrying this toxic belief. I had to break the cycle.
I used to date a young lady, and she went through a divorce very young. She got married young, sorry. And she went through a divorce. And when I met her, it was after the divorce, a couple of years after. And what she did was she would shut down. She didn't want to ever be seen as vulnerable, which, as you and I know, is a very important aspect of dating, right?
Yes. Yes.
And she decided that, no, I don't want a man to see me that way because it's a weakness. I don't want to be weak. I have to be strong. I have to be all these other things. And one thing I was trying to get her to understand is strength shows up differently for other people. And one way where it's more universal across men and women is that to be vulnerable in front of someone shows courage and strength, because it takes strength to open up. Is that something that you had to realize when you were trying to separate yourself from what your mother was showing you, and then ultimately you want to find a more successful relationship?
Absolutely, 100%. This is, you're right on point there. Vulnerability for the longest time for me associated with being weak, and this is how I was raised. My parents grew up in a Soviet system, extremely brutal and harsh. All emotions were suppressed. I grew up suppressing everything except for just smiling out, just agree, respect the authority. There was no allowance of crying, and that had eventually brought me to the point where I've felt that portraying myself or making myself vulnerable, allowing myself to cry, or saying something that concerned me or something that hurt my feelings would make me look weak. And I did not want to be perceived weak. I wanted to be perceived strong. And I did really great job keeping up the facade of a strong Ukrainian woman for many years. I was exceptional at it. I was great, to the point that in my second marriage, when I finally started breaking down these beliefs and finally healing, my second husband, the first time I actually expressed it emotionally, he was shocked. He did not see me before that. That's how bad it was. Like, I never allowed anybody to see who I am. I kind of did not know who I am myself. It took me time to really come to terms to be authentic self. But this facade was there to protect me. I did not know any better. I took all my survival mechanisms, all my coping mechanisms that I had built, being a child, growing up with emotionally broken parents in a brutal system of the Soviet Union, and I kept applying them in adulthood. But guess what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you keep applying the same beliefs, the same belief system over years and years, and you don't check in to evaluate whether it's serving or harming you, it can cause a lot of trouble.
I wonder how much of us accept that, because when we see our parents, and you and I pretty much around the same age, even though we grew up in different parts of the world, we see our parents who are exhibiting this type of behavior, but yet they're still married for a number of years, right? 20, 30, 40 years. And we're like, okay, how bad can that behavior be if their marriage is lasting the test of time? But what we don't understand is that we are trying to duplicate something that works for 2 people, but may not necessarily work for us. And plus, it's a different time, right? I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't want to be that type of woman to the men that you continue to be around, right?
Yes, yes. And I'd like to comment on something that you said, is that when we look at our parents or we look at another couple, whether it's different generation or even, the same age, we should absolutely not compare. However, in the case of our parents, just because the marriage, like my parents, they just celebrated 36 years together, okay? And me now being a coach and being healed, knowledgeable, being able to reflect, they should not be together. They should not be together. I've asked them, why are you still together? However, they've never taken an opportunity. It was too scary to heal. They just together because they're afraid to be apart. They're afraid of what happens, what's the unknown once you break it up. And this is their choice. And I no longer judge that. I understand that it's hard to overcome fears, but the duration of any relationship is not a testament for its success. Not at all. It's possible to have 3 years or 5 years, and then somehow something changes in life and you start taking different directions. And if you can make this separation amicable and agree, we tried, it worked, but for whatever reason, it doesn't work anymore. Let's take the good and go different ways. It's possible. I'm a huge proponent of this healthy approach, not till death do us part, but till we need to reevaluate our relationship to see if we're actually still working together as a unit.
I'm all for, I'm going to piggyback of what you just said in that last sentence. I'm all for the reevaluation. Let's say let's say you're married. Let's say you and I are married, right? Every 5 years, we renew our vows. We say, okay, let's reaffirm our commitment to each other, because it could be that 5 years ago, you were a different person. I was a different person. We both were in a different place in our life. 5 years from now, we can be two totally different people. Do we still want to blend our lives that way, right? 15 years from now, same thing. And one thing I will also join you in saying that 40 years on the surface looks amazing. Oh my God, you and Irena together for 40 years? Yeah, but you know what? After year 10, we hate each other. We're only doing this because a warm bed is better than a cold bed, right? There's some people with that mentality where I'd rather be with someone, even though maybe every other day, I don't really like that person. I'm feeling that I love them less. But for me to go back out there, it's kind of scary. It's unsure. I feel insecure of myself. Can I find another person that's going to put up with me? Can I find another person that I'm going to tolerate? When you're speaking to your men and your male clients, are you helping them to understand that it's okay to be afraid of the unknown, but maybe it might be better than staying in something that is toxic to you?
That is one of the first conversations we actually have on the first session. It's the fact that it is scary. And the only difference between me, who now is a relationship coaching after having undergone tons of challenges in relationship and having learned from them, the only difference is that I still have fears. I just move past them because I know that I had made it through the challenges before. So for somebody who is just about to venture out of their comfort zone, it can feel quite paralyzing. So this is the concept that needs to be, I believe, in a society in general, collectively, it should be highly promoted. Not the expensive wedding with a beautiful dress till death do us part thing, but this flexibility. Nothing in nature stays static, nothing. We have seasons, we have winter, we have summer. If you look at the nature, there's nothing that stagnates. What happens to this water that's stagnant water? It gets smelly and green, right? So this is the analogy I give to my clients when they are fearful about coming out of their comfort zone, right? Because the flowing water, the flowing energy brings fresh opportunities and open doors into your life. But it is a tough one. It's one of the toughest challenges to get people to step out of the comfort zone.
So what are some of the commonalities that maybe prevent men from making that leap forward and finding a successful relationship, especially with someone that they feel can grow and continue to grow together?
In the case of men, when I coach men, one of the biggest issues is fear of rejection. And this is a tough one that we have to work on. However, there are very deep roots for this rejection fear. It's not just women. I'm pretty good looking. I've been approached by many guys, and I've never been a rude, mean, call to them. I would be just saying, thank you for the effort, not interested, whatever my situation is, right? So I wasn't rejecting them brutally. And yet 99.9% of men that I talk to or I coach, they're afraid of what if she doesn't like me? What if her friends see me rejecting me? However, rejection, I just wrote a blog post on my website. Rejection is simply a redirection. Every rejection you experience gets you closer to your genuine connection, to your compatible partner. So I always tell men, and I give them tasks and homework, seek out rejection. Get to the point where you want to get rejected, because then, guess what? Fear loses its power. There's no longer any fear behind getting rejected. Because rejection, it's theoretical. The world keeps on spinning, right? If somebody says no, it's nothing personal. It's simply that this woman at this given day, for whatever her personal reasons, she doesn't see herself getting connected to you. And that's okay. We're not meant to like or connect to every single person. That would be possible, right? So it's perfectly okay. But there's still a lot of the fear around the going over the rejection. And unfortunately, the movements like the feminism and the Me Too movements made it even harder in the society for men to truly deconstruct, like how to approach a woman, how not to hurt her feelings, how not to be perceived a certain way. There are ways to do it. This is what I teach men, practical steps. Thankfully, I'm a woman myself, so I know what works, but anxiety over rejection is really big challenge to overcome.
I know for some of my friends, that's probably one of the hardest parts when it comes to approaching a woman. And many of them, they've turned to different ways to kind of ease the rejection process or the anxiety of it, right? Or maybe sometimes the embarrassment, because I've seen some of my friends get rejected in some of the most horrific ways. And online is pretty easy because it's just, if she doesn't match with you, she doesn't match with you, right? There isn't anything public. Where some other times they may go to a club where it's nice and dark, and they'll wait for the girl to go down maybe closer to the washroom where it's like that dark section, then the light of the bathroom. Then they're like, Irena, I'll see you from afar. How do you? They'll do something like that, right? So if you to tell me no, for example, no one else sees, right? And I remember a time where I was speaking to a woman and I was telling her, this is my scenario here. I'm trying to figure out women. I'm trying to understand how I can be more successful. This was when I was much younger, my 20s. And she said, this is the type of men that she likes. So I began to understand what women look for. And then when I went back to some of my male friends, they didn't understand what women were looking for. They got caught up in, well, women only want the 3 6s, right? 6 figures, 6 feet, and 6 inches.
I know, right?
Right? And I'm like, well, there probably are women that want that, but they're not the majority. They're just a very loud minority. So how do you help men kind of overcome some of the stigma of dating and maybe some of the myth that is out there when it comes to what women actually want?
I give them some real life examples. There actually were a couple instances when I was doing group coaching, when I was still back in Europe. I actually taken a group out to the club and I would teach them to pay attention to the body language, when to approach, whether she's approachable, whether she's available to talk to you. So those type of things. But I was also pointing out, when there were couples, I was pointing out to the fact that from a kind of an external perception, when it seems like she looks a 10 and he looks, I don't really like these numbers, but just for the comparison's sake, she looks a 10 and he looks maybe a 6. So this is just kind of a way to point out to men that, listen, this is possible because they are in a relationship. They are together here for whatever reason they are together. So there is a connection, right? There is a connection. So the 3 sixes, maybe it happens in a Barbie movie. I don't know. It's not really real life. And this is the trouble that we all have to deal with. I think most of us have gotten the relationship model out of the movies, which is a far cry from the reality, because taking our parents who were not necessarily equipped to have a healthy relationship, and then you've got this movies where everything is perfect. How do you know where is this delicate, middle ground where everything works? So I tell men that self-worth, self-love comes first, and you radiate different energy. Confidence, you're not born with confidence. Confidence is a learned skill. This is a big actually perception that many men have. It's like, well, he's confident, he can talk to any woman he wants. But I go, no, you can actually do certain practical steps. You can say certain things. You can present your body language a certain way. You can dress a certain way to be perceived confident. It's a learned skill, totally learnable. I've seen it. So getting equipped with the skills is something that is absolutely crucial to go and get closer to your ultimate goal, finding the connection and then hopefully companionship.
It's taken me, and I hope no one shames me for saying this. It has taken me 10 years to get the type of confidence you just described. And it's taken me 10 years of stuttering, of failing, of, I don't know what I'm going to say. Because as you mentioned, it's not something that is injected into every male baby and says, okay, when you're going to be 18 years old, it's activated. We have to learn it. How do you help your male clients learn to be confident enough to approach women, as well as not to get too hung up on if she says no?
The first thing we actually have to do, we actually need to uncover the roots where this lack of confidence is coming from. Unfortunately, in majority of societies, men are raised the way that they're not supposed to be showing their emotions, they're not supposed to cry, they're supposed to be this and that, and men are supposed to be maintaining a certain facade, just like I was supposed to maintain my strong Ukrainian woman facade. God forbid somebody thinks, I thought I needed help or I was weak. So it's kind of a similar situation. So once the roots of this lack of confidence or anxiety over the rejection uncovered, then we address it. And validating yourself through somebody else's opinion is something that probably lives within most of us. And what you said, like you struggled, you tried, you failed, and you kept trying. This is essentially how you get anywhere. You keep going regardless of how you feel about it. And it gets easier and easier and easier. That's why I can't emphasize enough. I use these words a lot, learned skill. Just when we want to get a job, we prepare for it, right? Like we go to the interview, we dress a certain way, we rehearse in front of the mirror, we want to be our best. We learn a skill. We already have a resume, a CV with certain qualifications, we're prepared for the most part. Yet, when it comes to finding love, it's just assumed it's just going to magically poof and happen. But it doesn't happen. You have to go in prepared. Like you have to know how to listen. Almost nobody has listening skills. It's puzzling. You have to know how to touch, what to pay attention to. And when you have all of this, this is where the confidence comes from. And guess what? Confidence in a man for a woman, number one, aphrodisiac. Women get attracted not to six-pack, they get attracted to confidence. They get attracted to emotional availability. Emotional availability is something in a man is something that not so easy to find due to all the social stigmas and ways the men are brought up that I mentioned earlier. So a lot of it is internal work and rewiring the mindset. So men can just go in with taking the practical steps, having the right mindset, and then keep trying and finally succeeding.
Ladies and gentlemen, one thing I want to say is that I did not prep her before this. So all the examples she's giving about comparing it to job, that's exactly what I say. That you want to be prepared for a relationship. You want to give it the same respect that you would give a job interview. And the example you gave when you said that prepare yourself, make sure your resume, make sure your CV, make sure you're dressed the part. I think that is key because it shows your intent. I think we need to get back to a place where we are dating with purpose, saying
Yes.
that I'm interested in this type of person. These are my negotiables. These are my non-negotiables. Can you enter my life and bring joy? I think, at least from my perspective, many of us will go into a relationship and say, Irena needs to fix me. I'm damaged. I'm going to bring all this chaos into your life. Even though you have done the work to heal yourself, I'm not healed, but I don't want to be alone. I don't want to feel lonely. So I'm going to bring my mess into your house, which is nicely organized, and I'm going to expect you to fix it. Do you have those types of conversations with your male clients who maybe are not ready to date, but they're so eager to do so?
I do. There's quite a few that they just tired of feeling lonely. They just want somebody. And my program, my coaching program is designed that you can't get to a certain level until you go through your own internal rewiring to a certain extent. You just can't. Because even if I give you these practical tools, how to dress, how to pay attention to body language, how to touch, how to compliment, all right? Even if I give you all these practical steps, but your internal wiring still stays the same, it will be messed up. You will mess it up. You will not hold on to the connection. So it has to be sustainable. And for it to be sustainable, you have to be prepared. This really, it really blows my mind that we go into something so substantial, so fundamental in our lives, like sense of belonging, sense of love, and we go in expecting that it will just magically happen. And this is when I tell people, it's like you have to be proactive. If you live your life, your love up to fate, you're just gonna wait forever. Or you're gonna get in with somebody just to check the box and just be miserable out of your mind for the rest of your life. So spend 6 months training yourself, preparing yourself, be relationship ready. The right person will come around because you will radiate different energy. That I can guarantee. How I know? Because I have reprogrammed myself completely from all my toxic upbringing, all my toxic beliefs that I've had. And I know it's possible.
Why do you think some of us don't do the necessary work that you've done to achieve that?
There are a couple reasons, actually. For instance, when I speak to male clients, and very often, I would say about 70% of the time, there is this blame shifting going on. Well, it's all women because they want 36s, like you said. And when I start deconstructing that, turns out, no, it's got nothing to do with women, really. And then when sometimes women reach out to me, I don't actively market to them, but friends, people here, and they reach out to me and they go, oh, it's all men's fault. I'm like, how about it's nobody's fault? How about we start here, and then we go out. We don't go from outside in, we go from inside out. It's a very different path, right?
That's a good example because if you look at your house, you clean your house first, then you go outside. So clean within, then go outside to see what you can do to benefit life. And I wish for a day where these types of conversations were more frequent and more often, because men and women need to have that conversation. It's one thing to be in your echo chamber and say all men are this, all women are that, right? There's a time long ago, not long ago, but a few years ago, sorry, where I was a part of two groups, message chat groups, right? And one of them was predominantly male, single, and the other one was a mixture of men and women, but there's more women than men. And they would mention their dating experience and their complaints, like you're sharing them. What they didn't realize is that the complaints they have about each other were exactly the same, but they weren't talking to each other. Why do you think that is?
It's the lack of introspection. It's the lack of self-awareness. Again, we come out of school and childhood unprepared for connecting to another human being on many levels, whether it's just a casual social level or whether it's love level. We come out knowing math, chemistry, multiplication table. Maybe some of us, I still don't know, but we don't come out with the skills needed to understand that, like I mentioned before, it may work first, but it may change. It may evolve into something else. And it's okay. It's totally okay. We do not have the relationship skills to build sustainable lives. This is why we have the statistics of loneliness that are just, I think, just was a month ago in US here. There was actually the Surgeon General, he announced it as epidemic, the levels of people feeling lonely, and it affects your health, your physical health, and because it's not tangible, so people don't tend to pay too much attention to it. But as I had said it at one of my social events that I hosted a few weeks ago, when I have a lot of money, I'm going to lobby the government and I'm going to invent a mandatory relationship course for everybody who wants to get married. You're going to have to study and you're going to do the healing, and then when you pass, you can get married. Because that would change the statistics and the worse.
I remember the church used to do something about that where you actually had to take a course. So you had to go through some type of training and knowledge-based courses when you want to get married. And I know many churches in this part of the world anyways, they don't do that anymore, and they're still prevalent in cultures. But that was a good way to understand that, hey, dating is different than marriage. These are some of the expectations of the union that you're looking to hold. And you raised a few points where how when you're dealing with your clients, you take them out in group settings. And I made the joke earlier in our conversation that you're going to help me get married. And what are some of the tips that you can share for the men who want to date successfully? Not saying that I want to, but necessarily some of the men that you want to help, including myself, be more successful in the way we date.
You have to investigate first what is success for you. Success is a very broad word, so you have to kind of sit with yourself. I actually make my clients write out their thoughts. We investigate the thought process, okay? And this is for the purpose of identifying negative beliefs that usually hold us back from doing something we want to do. We know we want it, but it's kind of scary to get there, right? So examining that. So success comes, once again, it comes really from inside. And a little bit more attention to your own internal world will allow you to build a certain energy and aura around you to allow the person who would be a match to you to come into your life. And practical steps, some of them that I had described, are absolutely crucial for the visual chemistry, as I call it. It's very, very important. But what's also important is that once you have that feeling of, oh, we clicked, that's exciting, that's not enough. That's really not enough. And I had a client 2 months ago. He had gone on 34 first dates. None of them second, right? And when we started investigating, well, it turns out he's a super sweet guy. He's 25, very eager to learn. He was lovely to coach, but he did not listen to women. And I asked him, like, what was, when the woman talks to you, what do you do? He's like, I just kind of tune out and plan my response. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to work on that. Listening skills, communication skills goes both women, men, doesn't matter, another human being. We absolutely need that to build connection. So when you click with somebody romantically, and you think, oh, this is it, I got it. Guess what? It's going to fade away if the work is not done to maintain. And some of the portions of my program, I teach how to make yourself stand out of a crowd. because with online dating, we have about a bazillion matches floating around in the universe. It's very easy to swipe, but it's not so easy to get a date out of those swipes. So there is a approach. I teach them how to write the proper opener. Hey does not work. That's not the proper opener. So standing out of a crowd and catching a woman's attention is very important. Complimenting a pretty woman on her looks, no, because she's heard it so many times. It's just not authentic. It's not unique anymore. Complimenting her on something that she shared and there had been effort involved, and you compliment on something that she had worked for, that's going to make her feel so special towards you. So these are little steps that men, they don't even know to think about that. So, and it's important. You create a rhythm throughout the date. I have a part of my program is how to make the first date memorable. There is a certain rhythm to it. You don't do the job interview. I know I made an analogy earlier. You do not do the job interview at the first date. And this is this is fascinating stuff that can be learned. This is the intricacies between, the differences. We're very different, men and women. We are different, but that's the beautiful part. Embracing the differences, for women knowing when to be feminine, how to be feminine, for men to know how to project, how to ready their masculinity. So a woman's number one need is to feel protected, to feel safety. And this is something that men don't realize. And that comes from trust. If she doesn't trust you, if she doesn't feel protected by you, she doesn't care how you look like or whether you have six-pack or not. But if you make her feel protected and safety, it's biologically wired in us. We can't go against it. And this is something that men don't realize very oftentimes.
And that's a good point, because I think sometimes we get so caught up in what we see online and we say that, well, the men that are successful in dating is because of their money, where in fact is be attentive to the women and understand them better. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And when there's this tendency to go into external world, compare yourself to somebody else and assume that they're doing better than you just because the way they look, the way the car they have or something else, that should be a trigger. That should be a thought. It's like, okay, wait a second, let's come back, because that means something internally needs to be healed, changed, adjusted. Because externally going into external validation or external comparison usually means avoidance of dealing with something within.
I wonder if it's also a way for us to justify our lack of success, or to a degree our failure, saying that I couldn't get this lady because someone else has something that they didn't necessarily earn, such as they come from a wealthy family, they have a better car, things of that nature. Because I've experienced that with some of my male clients, where they'll say something along the lines, well, I didn't get this young lady because she went with someone that's this, or she doesn't date this type of man, she only dates that type of man. And they're related to either their skin color, their culture, things that you necessarily can't change. Do you find some of your male clients relying on things that are outside of their control and not focusing on what they can control?
Yes, but do you really want a woman that doesn't want you?
That's a very good
question.
point.
Why would you try to go for a type or a person that is openly, for whatever reason, her preference is this and that, and it's okay, it's her choice, it's perfectly okay. There's over 7 billion people in the world. We've got enough people to date. There's enough. Okay, it's just the matter of understanding what you want, what you bring to the table. This is another thing that I always tell men before they write out or think out their list of what they want. Make sure you have all those attributes yourself. If you want a woman with interest in life, you better have interest in life. If you want a woman who has great friends, you better have great friends. You do not expect something that you don't bring to the table. I've never heard somebody saying, oh, I just want this overweight girl who sits on the couch, watches Netflix and eats pizza all day. I've never heard anybody say that, right? Because even a man who is particular at that phase of his life where he's enjoying Netflix and eating pizza all day, he probably still wants a decent looking girl, an interesting girl, right? So there has to be match. You got to bring to the table the same attributes you want to attract. Or not try to get attracted, that's not the right word, not to pursue somebody who is obviously not really interested in your particular type, whatever that is. And I'm not talking externally, I'm not talking about the looks, I'm talking about a whole person, a wholesome person.
Oh yeah, that person is trying to get with Beyonce at that point. The one that sits on their sofa and eats pizza all day. And we have these expectations. And sometimes when I speak to people, I always ask them, where did this originate from? Right? Most people in their life, if you break them down, and you mentioned the tens and the rankings, I don't necessarily like to do that as well. But when you look at most people should be able to fit with someone. 7 billion people on this earth, we have our match, right? And most people right in the middle of the pack, meaning that we're not the top, let's say 5% in maybe our looks, in our career, in our car, in our money, in whatever, but we can still find happiness and success, as you mentioned, that is relevant to us. Happiness to me looks different than happiness to Irena, looks happiness to anyone that is watching this today. Same thing with success, same thing with peace. And we need to do the work to understand, is this person who I'm going to allowed to enter in my life, because you are allowing that person, are they going to bring me peace? Because they shouldn't be a disruption. I told someone that it's not your job to make me happy. It's your job to not make me unhappy, because I'm happy by myself. I'm at peace with myself. I understand myself. You're a complement to it. I want you to enter my life, so some of this happiness that I feel, I can share with you. Do you have those types of conversations with your male clients?
I do. And we talk about the fact that dating somebody, connecting with somebody should be an enhancement to your life. So there are quite a few guys I had worked with that we had to create social life, because all they were doing is working and then spending the weekends alone at home. And we had to go out of the comfort zone, take some yoga classes, because that's where women are. It's a numbers game. You have to get in front of women to actually connect to them. It's extremely scary and uncomfortable for guys, especially making them might take yoga classes. However, it's proven to be successful. It's proven to be successful, but it should never be, I want to be with somebody who would make me happy. That's why I don't like the phrase. I think it's less of it now. I can hear or see like, you complete me. That's like, no, I'm pretty complete on my own, and I'm looking for somebody to share my completeness with, to enhance the whole experience, to just make it even more fantastic. That should be the goal, not patching up the holes, completing.
As we close, Irena, what's some advice you want to give to next generation who are looking to date with purpose and find success that's going to make them feel good and the success that they want to find? How would you advise them?
I would say one of the first and foremost things, the most important, is acquire some communication and listening skills. Learn how to make a human connection before you actually try to connect with women. Learn how to be curious about the person that's in front of you, instead of listening to them, tuning them out, and forming a response to them because you just want to hear yourself talk. Listening and communication skills, conflict resolution skills. This is the base. This is something that if you learn, this is something that will help you not just find love and compatible person, but also sustain this connection, the relationship in the long run. And it's okay to admit that you need help. So if somebody is uncomfortable, I've had a couple of clients who wanted to keep it secret that they are using dating coach, right? And I find it admirable when somebody is outspoken about it, because when you have a toothache, you go see a dentist, right? So why is it too difficult to admit that I'm learning new skills? That's awesome. That's super admirable. You are becoming a better version of yourself. This is the change for the future generations. Always strive for growth. Never stagnate. Don't get stuck in the comfort zone. Come out of the comfort zone. Magic happens only outside of the comfort zone. I know that.